planning TpT products that actually sell. Hi, I'm Mandy Lee. I am a former Spanish teacher turned teacher biz owner. I'm a new mom. I have a 9-month-old at home, and I'm a coffee and Kindle enthusiast. I always have one or both with me. I started my TpT about 3 years ago. I was hoping to just make enough to cover a bill or two and save up for a vacation, but a little over a year after I started, I was actually using my TpT income to leave the classroom. That was about a year and a half ago. Now I help other teachers start TPTs with intentional steps that help them skip the overwhelm and create a business that makes sense for their lives. I want to make sure the time that you're putting into your TPT, into your businesses actually pays off and leads to results, aka sales, that you want. So we are going to do that by creating products that are actually going to sell. So today we're going to split this up into three main sections. First, we're going to talk about coming up with an endless supply of TPT product ideas. So if you're newer or you're still working on creating your first product lines, that will be a good place to start. Then we're going to go into kind of using your TPT data if you have been around the block to create more of what your buyers want. And then whether you're a newer or more established seller, the third thing we're talking about is using market research to avoid creating oversaturated products in an already competitive market. So, starting with planning your products, you might be wondering, do you really need to plan your products? Many new sellers make the same mistakes and come to TPT thinking they can just put any resource up and start making sales, but that is no longer true. There are a lot of sellers on TPT, so we need to be intentional about what we're doing, what we're creating, and how we're doing it. So, we're doing that through things like market research, competing in a competitive market, closing gaps on TPT to give teachers what they actually need, and intentionally designing resources that will allow us to grow our businesses. So we're going to start at the beginning with strategic product planning, with coming up with ideas from scratch, coming up with ideas from things you already have, whether it's in the depths of your Google Drive from teaching or based on products you already have. And then we're going to move into using what we already know will sell. And the most important thing we need to talk about is the common mistakes so that we can avoid those. Mistake number one that I see often is remaking what is popular. One mistake I see a lot of new TPT sellers make is trying to take what they see selling well on TPT already and creating the exact same thing or creating their own version of it. Unless you can improve upon a resource idea greatly in a way that makes it different, that adds differentiation, that makes it into a digital resource, you should avoid remaking what is already out there. Starting off making a product that already has lots of competition from similar resources is going to make it harder to rank in search, to get clicks, to make sales. One example I talk about often is every single teacher, elementary teacher out there at Thanksgiving time does a turkey craft, but that doesn't mean you should create a turkey craft if you're an elementary seller because there are over 7,000 of them on TPT. So at this point, to create one that is going to actually sell and is worth your time to make, you'd have to really work hard to stand out, to rank in the search, to actually sell that product. So instead, we want to focus on creating new things. Mistake number two is not niching down. You might be hoping that it'll make it easier to grow an audience by creating a wide array of activities in different subjects or across different grade levels, but the opposite is actually true. If you decide, oh, I'm going to make math worksheets from every grade from 1st to 12th, then if a teacher buys a resource, a third grade teacher buys a resource from you and they love it and they want to come back for more, you're not going to have a lot of things for them to purchase. And one thing we're going to talk a lot about tonight is getting repeat buyers because that's how we're going to grow our income on TPT. If a high school calculus teacher won't need your third grade multiplication practice sheets, for example. Instead, dedicating your store to a smaller niche like 8th grade English or kindergarten phonics is going to help you make it easier to grow an audience of teachers who will become those repeat buyers. And then mistake number three is creating without a plan, blindly making products. You need to create with a plan so that we have a direction that we're going in. We can build each product off of the last, turn those $3 sales into $10 or $30 sales, and again, create those repeat buyers. Creating in themes of teaching concept or product lines, and we're going to talk about both of those, not only helps increase your sales by creating those repeat buyers, but also is going to save you a lot of time. If you're already creating a product on fractions or you're already creating a line of mazes, odds are you're already in that mindset and you can quickly create more rather than starting from square one with a new resource based on a new teaching concept every time. Are we following me? I know I talk fast, so if you need me to slow down at any point, just shoot me a little message in the chat because I go quick. All right, good. I got a couple thumbs ups. All right, thank you, Ian. Brainstorming product ideas. So you know what not to do. We know the mistakes that we're avoiding. So what should we be doing is our question, right? And we're always starting from square one. If you don't already, you should take time to create your ideal customer, or you might sometimes, if you have other businesses, hear it as your ideal client avatar. This is a picture of me, actually my first back to school night, because my ideal customer is myself as a Spanish teacher. When creating resources and brainstorming new ones, you want to be creating them with your ideal client avatar or your ideal customer in mind. This is how you're going to create resources that the same teacher is going to come back for over and over again. And my ideal customer that I create every resource for is myself when I was in the classroom. Because she's a high school Spanish teacher, I'm creating things that fall into that niche for high school Spanish teachers. The ideal client that I have is planning the night before. She might be a little bit disorganized. So most of my resources are super low prep or no prep. They are print and go or assigned digitally and go. She also likes hands-on interactive activities that increase engagement. So I'm making resources that get students out of their seats, they're interacting with each other, they're gamifying language learning. And again, she's a little disorganized, so I'm creating resources that don't need a laminator, they don't have 1,000 parts, they don't require 3 dice, 2 pipe cleaners, and a bingo machine. They have everything you need to go for the most part, right? Every single resource I create, I'm keeping her or, myself in mind. And by doing this, I'm creating products and catering my store to a specific individual that will love every resource I create and continue to come back for more because it's meeting the needs that she has. Everything I design is with that person and their needs in mind. So if you haven't done this, I highly recommend that you take time to think about who your ideal customer is because every product you make, you can come back to and think, does this align with who I want to find my products and align with who I want to be adding them to cart and coming back for more. So now that we have our ideal customer in mind, we're going to talk about 2 different ways that we can create products for him or her. The first being starting from scratch. So let's talk a little bit through the process for brainstorming or brainstorming, apparently, product ideas. You can research and start with learning standards for grades and subjects and create engaging games and activities to teach them is one way we can start. We can also use the people and ourselves, our teacher friends around us. Think about and ask yourself and your teacher friends what would make their lives easier, their lessons more engaging. If you or someone you know has ever looked on TpT for a resource before and not been able to find it, a lot of times those are good places to start, and some of my best-selling activities have started that way. Pinterest is still a great place to find ideas and research and put your own spin on them. And sometimes I'll even go into things like Pinterest and I will look in niches that are not my own to get ideas for different types of resources that have nothing to do with Spanish, but is something I could recreate for Spanish. And so I'm taking all of these ideas and I'm going to mind map. I'm going to start with a broad topic like Earth Day or ecotourism, and I'm going to start writing down themes or activity ideas for each topic. And you might be thinking, yes, this is basic stuff. We know how to brainstorm ideas, but this is going to lead me into the way I create every product. That's going to take you from a couple of ideas, a couple of concepts, and come up with 10, 20, 200 new ideas. And that is by putting every single product I have into 2 categories. Every product that I create, every product line I start has both a teaching concept and a type of resource, and it's probably true for every resource you have created or will create as well. So we're thinking of products in 2 categories. When I'm mind mapping, I might start with the teaching concept and then move into the resource type. The teaching concept is literally what is being taught. So I'm a Spanish, or I was a Spanish teacher. I create materials, educational materials for Spanish teachers. So my teaching concepts are largely grammar and vocabulary based. Things like the present tense, the past tense, school vocab, art vocab. Then my type of resource is the type of activity they are doing, right? Things like gallery walks, reading passages, digital mazes, mystery pictures. Now, each of these I'm going to cross-reference. Every gallery walk I make, I can make it for every single type of teaching concept I have. I'm making it for the present tense, the past tense, the school vocab, the art vocab. Same with reading passages. I'm making it for all of these. I have a matrix in my Canva that is a little bit overwhelming and has all of my concepts and all of my resource, and my goal is to fill it all the way across. Every resource idea I come up with, every teaching concept I come up with, I'm cross-referencing and I'm making it for each one until I've checked across the whole thing. Because we don't need to keep reinventing the wheel every time we create a product, right? We need to come up with solid ideas that we do market research on, which we're going to talk through that we know will sell, that close the gap, and then we need to repeat them so that we can get that ideal customer coming back for them again, so that we can solve a problem for teachers, so that we don't have to recreate the wheel or spend 4 hours recreating a brand new listing every time we post something on TpT, right? See some nods. All right. Building off of that, so this concept applies whether we're starting from scratch or not, but let's talk about using what you already have because most people here, I'm assuming, either are or at one point were teachers. So odds are whether you have ready to go materials or tons of ideas from the classroom, you have a lot to go off of, both in your Google Drive and probably already on your TpT itself. You don't always need to start from scratch, right? If we have ideas on TpT itself, we can expand upon those by creating a different type of version, an evergreen versus a seasonal version, a printable versus a digital version. We can create extension activities. Take one product you have and turn it into multiple. For example, I recently created a reading for my Spanish store on ecotourism. So that's this first product here. I don't know if you can see my mouse. It is just a reading, comprehension questions, analysis questions, extension questions. Now, because I created that, this actually, I made it a bit ago, was something I created for my own classroom. But then I was like, well, I'm creating this one thing on ecotourism, so now I should just expand upon that, right? I'm thinking about what other things, other resource types that I already have, right? These things, can I apply to the ecotourism teaching concept that I'm already creating for? And I'm going to create a web quest activity, and I did, and then some discussion cards. And by doing that, I've turned a single one-off idea into multiple ideas into a bundle. So then I took that $3 product and created another $3 and $4 product and turned it into a $10 bundle. And that way, when I have one idea, I can turn it into multiple, turn that $3 sale into a $10 or $7 sale once it's discounted, and solve multiple problems for my potential buyer, right? She's not just buying one random one-off reading, but now she has a full lesson pack for the week. And we're not just looking at TpT products we have, but we're also looking at what we literally have in our Google Drives. Again, most of you, I'm sure, are either in the classroom still or were in the classroom at one point, and I'm sure you have a plethora of Google Drive or Microsoft resources that can be repurposed into TpT products. Now, these days we can't take just a regular old worksheet like this with the boring paragraphs and a couple of questions, right? We need to turn it into something that can compete in an oversaturated market. But we can take things like that worksheet and we can turn it into multiple products. I took this reading and question worksheet that I had and I turned it into just standard readings and questions with a little bit of a facelift. Then I also turned it into an interactive resource, a gallery walk, where these can be posted around the room. They can be used with a checklist, a scaffolded activity. So we have all of these ways to create products based on starting from scratch, based on what's already working in our TpT store or the new ideas we're coming up with our TpT store, and we want to create more of what's going to work. So talking about data, and we're not going to get crazy into data because this could be a whole other thing, but we're going to lightly touch on it because it's part of it, right? All right. When we are looking at your TpT data, if you are an established seller, you've been around for a little while, you have some good views on your products, using your TpT data is actually a great way to come up with some product ideas. So we could sort your product statistics by the amount sold or by your highest earners, and we're going to talk about the difference in that in a second. But when you do that, I want you to take note of your top sellers, particularly like the top 5 to 10, and write down what do they have in common. Is it the concept type? Is it the type of resource, like the gallery walk, the maze, the worksheet pack? Write down the top 3 commonalities that you see and then brainstorm how to create similar products like those. So, for example, what products were popular sellers? What made them popular? Those commonalities. Is there anything you could do to improve the products, clarify the descriptions, or build upon them? Consider making similar products to them. So, for example, as a Spanish seller, one of my best sellers is a La Comida Spanish gallery walk. Its concept is the food unit, food vocabulary. The resource type is the gallery walk. So then I'm going to build off of those. I'm going to create multiple different activities all about food, the food vocabulary, and then I'm going to bundle those to make my food unit. And then I'm going to make more gallery walks as well. Looking at your TpT data, we're looking at your best sellers and your highest earners, and you might think those are the same things, but a lot of times they have good similarities, but there is some differences there. So we want to make sure you take time to look at both when we are talking about this. When looking at your best sellers, you want to also look at your highest earners because there's going to be a difference of high ticket items, which will sell less, so those bigger bundles, and low ticket items, which will sell more but are earning less because they're a $3 product versus a $5, $10, $15, $50 product. Those bundles, those higher price items are obviously higher price, so they're going to sell less. But it's good to know what those highest earners are to take into account when we're looking at the commonalities. Because if those units are your highest earners, and Tracy decides she wants to put more time and effort into creating as many unit bundles as she can, then that's good information to have, right? So it tells you what's worth it to actually continue to make. With that, we also might find that some of our highest earners or best sellers are seasonal or holiday resources. We can repurpose what we already have to create the seasonal and holiday resources as well. You don't want your whole store to become seasonal or holiday because what most people's goal is to create that stable income mostly year round or school year round, right? And so we don't want to have a huge spike in December and a huge spike at the end of the year and then not really make money throughout the whole rest of the school year. But if we have products that are selling really well that we could then take and create a seasonal or holiday version, we want to create more of what's working, right? So that La Comida food gallery walk I might create a holiday version of that and do holiday foods or holiday traditions gallery walk. So I'm not starting from scratch, I'm not reinventing the wheel, but I will get a nice little pop when it is time for that season or holiday to come up. And then the last way we can create more of what is working is through product lines and bundles. So like we were talking about, building off of the resources we already have. Instead of creating those singular products, we want to create in product lines. If you don't know what a product line is, it's just a line of products where the resource type is the same. So a line of gallery walks I might create would have 10 different gallery walks, all about different concepts, and then I can bundle them together. I can also create bundles based on the teaching concept, so that food bundle I was talking about. Doing this allows your potential buyers to come back for more of what they like from you. If they like the gallery walk for the first unit, they might come back to see if you have one for their second teaching concept in their second unit. And it can also allow them to find those pathways and make the bigger sale of the bundles. All right. So at this point, you probably have or could come up with 40 or 400 new product ideas, right? But the point of why we're here is because we want to make sure those product ideas are actually going to sell. We don't want to just come up with ideas and post them and hope for the best. So how are we going to do that? The answer is market research, and we want to do this before we create, ideally, because we want to make sure that before we put all these hours into creating new TpT products, that it's actually going to pay off, right? So we're going to do this before we create to make sure that the time we're putting in is going to result in a product that's going to sell. We can't just post any resource on TpT and expect to make sales. There's too much competition, but there is room for everyone if you're intentional about what you are making, how you are creating it, and how you're listing it. You're already spending hours doing those things and getting that resource up, so we want to make sure it's actually going to result in those sales. Now, market research is just literally taking even just a couple of minutes on the TpT website itself and doing research to see what is in the market of what you're thinking about creating. So I'm going onto TpT and I'm literally typing in my idea on there, and I'm going to walk you through it a little bit in a second. And I'm looking at the results in the search results. And I'm paying attention to things like how many similar results are there and how do they compare to my idea? Are there 10 results? Are there 1,000? Are there 10,000? And so on. Are they all exactly the same? The thing about TpT is sometimes you can log in and you can type in a product idea. I think last fall I typed in Day of the Dead poster and it said like 2,000 results. And by the end of the first page, it was Father's Day items. So we're not just looking at the results number, right? We're actually taking the time, we're scrolling through, we're seeing what those results really are. We're also looking at the quality of the results. Do they have a lot of reviews, which would tell us that it's actually something people are purchasing and looking for? Do they have the same components? Can we improve upon the idea in any way? And then the final thing I'm looking for, just to keep in the back of my mind for product creation, is what price point are they at? Now we are using that market research to see the competition, to see how we can differentiate, and to see how our product will do. We're researching similar products and keywords to see what comes up, but I don't want you to just one and done this. You're going to explore related keywords, type it in a couple of different ways, add specific keywords such as printable, digital, interactive, and try to see if you can see any gaps in the market. Maybe there's 40 printable versions of what you're going to create, but there aren't any digital versions. That is a gap in the market. Surely there are teachers looking for a digital version, so that is how you could differentiate and stand apart. If we find that our product idea is oversaturated, does not mean that is the end all be all. There are different things we can do to then take that idea and have it still perform well. When you look, you're going to search and see how many products come up. If there's way less than 1,000 results, like we're talking like 10 to 20, and there's like one or two at the top that are what you were thinking, there might not be any competition and there might not be anyone looking for it. So we need to find a middle ground, right? If there are 10,000 results and it's page after page after page, that might be too much. But if we're talking about a couple thousand, some are similar, but there's not a ton of exactly what you're creating, they have some good reviews, that's the middle ground. That's a type of product that could be worth pursuing. If there are tons and tons of results, we want to consider changing up your idea, because if we don't, it's going to be hard to compete with those types of products as they already have that history of being bought. They have the reviews, they're already ranking in the search. So they're going to be favored. And again, when we're looking at these, we're remembering that not every single one is actually going to apply. But if that happens, we don't have to totally ditch the idea. We can just get more specific. So if you look up, for example, adding fractions worksheet on TpT, this was a screenshot from I think the fall, so it's probably even worse now. Adding fractions worksheet came up with 19,000 results. But if we get more specific and we change it from adding fractions worksheet to task cards, we get down to 7,700 results. But we can get it down even further by typing in things like digital game or gallery walk. So we could take that original idea, we're still creating something for fractions, something that could still be pretty similar, but getting more specific in the type of resource it actually is. I did this recently again. Last fall I was creating for Day of the Dead, which is taught in Spanish classes every fall. And when I looked up Day of the Dead readings, there were over 5,000 results. So I was thinking that might not be worth my time because it was page after page after page of just plain readings. But when I looked up Spanish ofrenda, which is a type of altar reading, there were only 99 results. And then when I looked up ofrenda craft to build upon that idea, there were only 33 results. Now, those results are pretty low, but the ones that were there had good reviews, which means people are looking for them, people are purchasing them. So I know it's worth my time. Sometimes you don't have to throw a whole idea out just because there's competition. You just have to get more specific with it. You don't need a totally different niche, totally brand new ideas. You just need to come up with more focused ideas so that we know that they are going to actually sell, that they're going to stand out, that we have something new to offer. All right. Woo. All right, we got the ideas. You probably even mapped out a product or two, or you got some floating around in your head during this training. But how do we take all of that and turn it into consistent growth, not just random bursts of sales? Because if it were just about the ideas, most of us would already be making the amount of money we want to make, right? There's something else at play here. How do we make sure you stick to that plan? Or that the plan is even working, that it works not only for TpT, not only for making sales, but also for you, for your life, for having kids, for having teaching jobs, for all of the things that you have outside of just being a TpT creator, right? The good news is you don't have to work more hours, few, right? We just need to be strategic. We need to be intentional about how we are using that time. And that's not just doing market research so that we know that the products that we're creating are going to actually sell, right? There are tons of different ways we could go about this, and it looks different for every seller. And that's where my coaching program, Path to Profit, comes into play. It is a 4-month program that is currently open where I help you stop spinning and actually build the store that supports your life and your goals, not just generic for whoever, but your specific life, your specific TpT store in the time you actually have. You bring your ideas and energy and dreams, and I bring the strategy and support to help you actually get there in the time that you have. And trust me, I get it because I've got a 9-month-old at home and we're squeezing in things wherever we can around here. Path to Profit is going to help you transform your TpT store from a side hustle to an actual business, from hit or miss sales to sustainable, consistent sales throughout the school year. And our main goal is doing it without burning you out because you have a big, beautiful life outside of TpT, and your TpT should be built to support that and not the other way around. I just want to share with you on the screen here a couple of quick wins from the previous round that we're wrapping up now of Path to Profit. I have had a couple of different clients who've been in it for either 3 or 7 months, and we've worked together to not only scale their sales, as we can see here, to their first $100 days and their first 4-figure months, but also to creating new product lines that are actually selling, to meeting their accountability plans that are personalized for them, and having continuous wins that work for them and get them to their personal goals. This isn't magic because there is no magic and everyone is different and every TpT store is different, but it's momentum with the right support. I'm there to give you a booty kick when you need it, to hop on your Canva doc and tell you exactly what I would change, to hold your hand through market research so that you can figure out how to build your store in a way that works for you. And it's for teacher authors who want consistent TpT sales without adding more to their already packed life. I want you to stop wasting time on the wrong things. Finally, have a plan that works for your store because you've got ideas, you've got products, you've started making sales, but we're not seeing that growth that you want yet. And this is how I get inside of your business with you and help you get there. If that sounds like something you're looking for, then this program was built for you. So just real quick, a little bit about what the program actually is. You get daily Slack coaching. So I'm in Slack Monday through Friday with my clients, answering questions, sending voice notes, sending text messages throughout the day, Monday through Friday. You get weekly product audits and material review. So you can send me Canva links, Google Doc links, TpT product audits, and I'm literally getting in there, commenting on it, working with you, helping you through the process. You also get monthly group coaching calls, all of which are recorded, and a personalized goal and action plan. So at the beginning of the program, we lay out your goals, what you're currently working on, what you want to be working on, and we create a literal step-by-step game plan to help you get there that you can follow throughout the time together. as well as access to all my templates, trainings, and swipe files during our time together, and real-time support from me every step of the way. It runs September 1st through December 19th. I have just 3 spots left for this cohort. It's 110 days of coaching. That number is wrong. There are only 10 spots, but again, 3 are left, and it's a $180 deposit to save your seat, and then $280 a month for the 4 months you're in it. Your TpT store can give you freedom, it can give you flexibility, it can give you the extra income that doesn't require extra hours, and it's closer than you think. It doesn't have to be hard, we just need to get intentional about the time that you actually have and use it in the right way. If you're interested, I'd love to chat more. You can find me on Instagram or on TikTok at The Empowered Teacherpreneur. And I am all about having an honest conversation to see if it's the right fit for you. Again, that's The Empowered Teacherpreneur.